Welcome to Dark Loops and the What If Crew, a podcast for discussing the new Marvel series, What If? I'm your host, Dr. Scott Jordan, aka Zombie Scotty, cognitive psychologist, philosopher from Illinois State University. And tonight we discuss episode 8, What If Ultron Won? Fellow members of the What If Crew, please introduce yourselves and say a little something about who you are. And we will start with Eric.
Eric Wesselmann. I'm a psychology professor at Illinois State University. I like talking about all things nerdy and how it relates to psychology. And I'm just love being here as always.
Very, very groovy. How about you, Stanford?
Yes, I'm Dr. Stanford Carpenter. I'm a cultural anthropologist coming out of Chicago.
Fantastic. And how about you, Daniel?
So I'm Daniel, aka the Pop Mythologist, and I'm a pop culture blogger here in Los Angeles.
Fantastic. And now for our special guest, the one, the only, the Svengoolie of the West Coast. Welcome to the show, Lord Blood-Rah.
My lords and ladies.
Lord Blood-Rah, please tell us, please tell us a little something about who you are.
I host
a little weird. I got a weird addendum there.
Oh, okay.
All right. Tell us a little something about who you are.
Yeah.
As well as who or what is your alias or superhero identity.
Okay.
Maybe an odd question, but go ahead.
Well, I'll start by saying I'm Lord Blood-Rah. I host Lord Blood-Rah's Nerve-Wracking Theater, in which I present the best, worst, and wildest horror and science fiction films ever made. And I would say this is it. This is my superhero persona. I have an inordinate amount of knowledge when it comes to cheesy B horror and science fiction films, and I'm not ashamed of it. That's the true superpower.
You know, we did have that conversation, didn't we? Right? You got to lean into who you are.
You got to lean into who you are. Absolutely.
And you know,
absolutely.
I've been pronouncing it Blood-Rah, not Blood-Draw. Oh, I'm so glad you taught me.
Either works. Either works, honestly. I'll take any mention that I can. So
well, we are so glad to have you here. Eric and I had the good fortune of meeting you in Peoria a couple of years ago.
Which was still to this day one of the best panels I've ever been involved with, honestly, truly.
Well, we had a blast.
Fantastic. It was great. Yeah.
You too can be a zombie. And then Eric and I participated in your Creatures Con virtually last year. Had an absolute blast. Very glad to have you here.
Thank you very much.
So so now that we know each other, as per the What If Crew format, we're going to play this week's version of the What If game. And to run the game, our very own pop mythologist, Daniel Jun Kim. Daniel, the floor is yours.
All right, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to share my screen. And I'm going to read this week's question. We have a different question every week. This week's question is, what if the Thanos in the universe of Season 1, Episode 8, while still in possession of the Infinity Gauntlet, knew of Ultron and its plans to exterminate all life in the universe, not just half of it, as Thanos himself was planning? So as we know, there was that one little moment in the episode where Thanos enters the scene and Ultron just cuts him down.
By the way, man, I can't let this go without commenting on the dehumanizing pronoun it. You know, I'm just saying Thanos might have, said pronouns he, him. Oh, come on, man. That's a joke.
Refers to Ultron, not Thanos. It's Ultron.
No, I mean, I'm sorry. Ultron. Right. Yeah. I'll forget it. I blew the bad.
Ultron's preferred. Did Ultron state that it has a preferred pronoun of he or they?
On his business card, man.
Maybe his preferred pronoun is they, them.
Yeah.
The multiverse. Anyway, I was being obnoxious. I apologize. Please continue, Daniel.
It's fine. All right. Okay. So Ultron and their plans to exterminate all life in the universe. Well, it is they, right? Because all those,
I guess are extensions of him, of them.
Robots, right? Of clones or whatever you call them.
Right.
All right. So I got here 5 anonymous answers. We're going to guess who said what. And as usual, we're going to try to confuse people and bluff on purpose. Answer number 1 is Thanos recognizes that Ultron and he have similar goals. He goes to live in a small 2-bedroom hut on a deserted planet and waits for Ultron to come to him. When Ultron arrives, he hands him the Infinity Gauntlet and says, "The multiverse is getting more and more crowded by the moment. I got a spare bedroom for when you are done." Ultron disappears with the Infinity Gauntlet. A year later, Thanos and Ultron relax on the beach, sipping drinks and watching the sunset. They are the last and oddest couple in the multiverse. Aww.
Oh, that's fantastic. Those wonderful Stanford
It's kind of
prose.
sweet. It's
It
kinda
is.
sweet. Yeah.
Romantic
Sure.
comedy.
Yeah,
Yes.
which one's Tony Randall?
Oh,
Come
gotta be Ultron, right?
There you go.
Gotta be Ultron because Thanos is more of an Oscar vibe, I think.
Totally.
Yeah.
Right?
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. A little more organic.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Only sounds like a date movie. Alrighty. Going on to answer number 2. Thanos would approach the various groups of heroes differently, advocating a truce until they could stop Infinity Ultron. During the struggle, T'Challa will be able to debate with Thanos and hopefully convince him of the non-genocidal alternatives mentioned in episode 2 when T'Challa was Star-Lord. Of course, that does leave us with the paradox of 2 Infinity Gauntlets existing in the same universe. Perhaps Captain Marvel holds on to the other gauntlet to keep Thanos honest. All this talk of Infinity Squared makes my head hurt. Now I think I need a fermented beverage, which I'm sure is must be kombucha, right? That's the one you're talking about. Whoever wrote this, you're not talking about. Can't be alcohol. This is a family show.
Well, we can talk
So,
about
so which fermented beverage are you talking about, Eric?
I don't drink fermented beverages.
I know nothing.
That fermented beverage
know
like written on
nothing.
your head.
That's what FB meant. Oh, damn.
Oh, fermented beverage.
All right, moving on. Answer number 3. In this scenario, Thanos would have the upper hand. He knows that to complete his goal of destroying half the life in the universe, he needs the Mind Stone that Ultron possesses. However, Ultron believes he has accomplished his goal of creating peace on Earth and did not appear to have any further ambitions beyond our planet. Ultron may not have even been aware of the other Infinity Stones and the powers they could bestow on the one who wields them. Thanos would, as we've seen in the film universe, employ various shady agents from across the universe to attempt to, quote unquote, persuade Ultron to give up the Mind Stone, and when they fail, pick up the task himself. Thanos versus Ultron. Whoever wins, at least half of us lose.
There you
Great
go.
point.
I love logic.
There's no good outcome for at least half of us.
Right?
At least half.
All right. Put on answer number 4. Thanos approaches Ultron. "Hey, bro, I don't like what you're doing." "Why not?" "You want to kill the entire universe. That's not ethical." "I see. And I presume your plan is ethical?" "Yeah, I want to kill half." "LOL. And that is ethical?" "Yeah, because it's random. It's about balance. My calculations tell me that reducing the universe's population by 50% will not result in balance. You will still have imbalance, just 50% less of it. I offer peace. 100% permanent peace. I'll give you peace, you heartless Tin Man. The two fight. It's pretty close because Vision Ultron with the Mind Stone is quite formidable. Still, Thanos prevails. Unfortunately, a zombie appears out of nowhere and bites him, and zombie Thanos now realizes that he does in fact want to kill everything in the universe. Bro, you were right.
You were right, man. Those damn zombies ruin everything.
Answer number 5.
All right.
Thanos kills Ultron. Straight up. The end. All right. So, assuming these answers are all still fresh in your memory, players, please go ahead and write down your guesses. If you want, if anyone needs me to do a quick review of the 5, raise your hand. If not, we're just going to go ahead and write your answers down.
Dun, 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 dun. My answers are locked in, Game Master.
Understood. All
I
answers,
got
once
it.
written down, are locked in. You cannot change your answers. It's an honor system. And then I would like to see a raise of hands, please, so that I know when to proceed. Okay, Scott is done. Stanford is done.
Lord
Still waiting on a
Blood-Rah.
couple of slow pokes.
Getting a little punchy there, boss.
I don't know, Eric. Think long, think wrong. Just saying.
Just saying.
I'm expecting perfect from you, Stanford.
Yeah, that's right. We
Well,
got to see a 5-0.
Anything less is unacceptable.
unacceptable.
Well, yeah, I do consider anything less than perfect as a loss. So
We need that inverse
Yeah.
resistance, man. Are we all ready?
yep.
All right, I'll go first or what?
Right. Well, hold on a second. Is Blood-Rah done?
I think
like,
he
his
said he
screen looks
was.
frozen.
Yeah, that's what
Okay.
I thought. I can't. Yeah, I got a spinning ball over here.
I think it's
And-
your lighting because your hand looks green.
Oh man,
can
how are
see-
you
you
throwing
can
your
see your
voice like
hand.
that? Because your
You
lips
can
aren't
see me?
moving, but you're.
Hmm.
No,
I
we
can
see.
I can see Lord Blood-Rah moving around and
Yeah, it's all
raising his
good.
hands and jiggling and
All right,
everything.
then.
But
All right.
All right, we can hear him, which is the important thing. So let's proceed. I'm
Okay,
going
my-
to start.
He's moving.
I'm
Go
going to
ahead.
start with asking for Scott's answer. Scott, please tell us your
Yes.
answers in the usual format.
Yes. So 1, Lord Blood-Rah. 2, Eric. 3, Daniel. 4, Stanford. And 5, Scott.
Okay. And next, Stanford, would you please tell us your answers?
1 Stanford, 2 Eric, 3 Daniel, 4 Scott, and 5 Lord Blood-Rah.
And next, Eric, please tell us your answers.
1 Stanford, 2 Eric, 3 Lord Blood-Rah, 4 Scott, 5 Daniel.
Okay. And last but not least, our special guest, Lord Blood-Rah, please share with us your answers.
Okay, I've got 1 Scott, 2 Stanford, 3 Don, 4 Eric. No, I'm sorry. 3. No, start over. 1 Scott, 2 Stanford, 3 me, 4 Eric, and 5 Don.
You mean Dan? Daniel? Me?
Daniel.
Dan. Sorry, I wrote down Don. Dan.
No worries. Okay. All right. So before I reveal the winner, I'm going to just quickly go through and reveal the answers. So answer number 4 was Stanford's answer.
Number 4.
Nice romantic.
Number 4 or number 1, dude?
Oh, did I say number 4? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I had too many fermented beverages.
Too many
Answer number
FBs on your
1.
full head.
Yeah. Answer number 1 is Stanford.
Yeah.
Answer number 2 is indeed Eric's.
Yes.
So he is the
Oh.
fermented beverage drinker. Answer number 3 is our special guest, Blood-Rah.
Yeah.
Answer number 4 is me.
Ah.
Answer number 5 is Scott. So that leaves us with Eric as this week's winner with 3 correct guesses.
Hey.
Well done, Eric.
Well done.
Well done, man.
Congratulations.
Yes,
Thank you.
On.
So
You-
it turns out that fermented beverages do help.
indeed. So it would seem.
That's fantastic. Well, Daniel, thank you so much for running the game. And now we're going to start talking about the show. Gentlemen, the format's the same as always. Favorite line, favorite scene, favorite character. Somebody jump on in, and we just want to make sure everybody gets to do one of those throughout the conversation. So the floor is open.
You know, I hate to say it. I love that last scene where Ultron just looks at Thanos and cuts him in half. It was the most. It was actually the most sensical, common sense scene I have seen in a superhero movie. Like, don't sit around talking about what you're going to do. Don't
Right.
give any warning. Just get it done.
Just get it done.
I
Yeah.
have to agree. I have to agree. Yeah, split them like a Virginia ham. Yeah, that's there was no, yeah, absolutely no. Oh, what are you? Well, I'm. Oh, what are those stones? Nope, that's it.
Done.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Favorite scene, favorite line, favorite character?
I thought Uatu
Like
really
that.
came into his own in this episode. I mean, he is the only one where he is in any kind of actual danger,
Mhm.
where we see him actually, having to be proactive and regretting that he has to be proactive. He really kind of fleshed out as a character with this episode. I was glad to see
He
that.
did, and they gave him some good comedy bits, right? Where
Yeah.
Hawkeye's looking for the file, and he goes, "You're so close, you're so close,
You're so close. You're so close.
I
Yeah.
can't do this anymore." And he goes, "You're a human.
I actually-
You'll fight through anything."
Yeah, I really didn't like that because,
Mm.
in all my sort of reading of What If, or just seeing the Watcher in the comics in general, he just struck me as a very kind of detached entity. I mean, he kind of had to be, I think, right? In a lot of ways, and to do his job. And just visually and just the way he looked, it always struck me as being just very kind of detached and sort of on some level above it all. And this episode for actually the first time in the series, the Watcher's showing a lot of emotion, in fact, too much. And I don't know necessarily that scene, like I didn't feel like that scene was trying to be humorous or funny. I just thought they were trying to like just instill some sincere emotion in them. But to me, it came off as very awkward because he's there being like, oh no, a little bit, okay, so maybe it was a little bit humorous intentionally,
Right.
but still kind of felt awkward to me because he's like, oh, you're almost there, you're almost there. It felt awkward because it was kind of an overall serious situation, but really, again, most of it was the Watcher to me is a very detached, aloof character. In my mind, and in his episode, he showed a lot of emotion, and it felt weird to me. Others may have felt differently, but
I'm gonna go meta, and as us as watchers, right? I think of watching horror films or whatever, and being in the audience and saying, "Wait, no, don't go up there, do that." I mean, when we are emotionally invested in these narratives and these characters, we have those reactions. We recognize, well, I guess in our case we recognize they're not real people, but we still, the story hooks us in. The Watcher has that even more so because he knows these folks are real, right? And he can't, or he swears that he shouldn't intervene. So I think he's even more invested in watching their stories than we are watching fictional stories.
Yeah,
Well,
I
feel like yeah. Go ahead.
You know what gets me is, as a kid, the Watcher was kind of like, whatever. You know what I mean? Like he didn't really do
he's so
much.
uptight, man.
Yeah. But here's the thing, like, as someone who is now an anthropologist, right? I mean, watching the Watcher is kind of triggering. It actually makes me think of those moments where I've been observing, and I feel like I'm literally looking at the train wreck, and I can't do anything about it because I can't. I'm in a position where I can't say. And having been in the position where like multiple people who you've been interviewing are like coming at each other, and that really that their difference between the two of them is not that great, but in actuality, but they think it's so great that they're coming into conflict. It's something that like I connect is interesting to me because I connect to that character very differently as the person I am now than before grad school. Even when I was, before I was an anthropologist, I was working in archaeology, right? Like, because archaeology has a lot less concerns about, when you observe and when you participate. But yeah, I mean, there is something very triggering, at least for me, about that character where I'm like, yeah, that really does suck.
Right. It's kind of like growing up watching Ultraman. It really bothered me that he only turned into Ultraman and fought when he was in danger, when he was trapped in the spaceship that was down, or he was, imprisoned underwater or whatever. That's the only time he turned into Ultraman.
Yeah. For me, what Marvel keeps doing is you got the universe. Oh, but that's not it. You got the multiverse, and there's always some level of agency in those. You got the Avengers in the universe, and then you got the Watcher in the multiverse. And I never look at art and say and cry foul. What I saw here was the same thing that I talked about a few episodes. I don't like seeing my gods humanized, right? I prefer they stay uptight. I prefer that they stay because humanizing them for me removes whatever may come to the character from being a god as opposed to human. So I like that tension. And I enjoyed the comedy. I enjoyed the Watcher doing it. At the same time, the whole damn universe is agentic now, right? From top to bottom, everybody's emotional. Everybody's got things they want. And there's nobody out. There's no higher level of constraint anymore, to the point where he goes and gets Evil Strange to be his partner, which immediately takes me back to Stanford saying, oh, damn, here we go. Another white savior, which is exactly what we talked about last time.
Yeah, that's true. And that,
But
go ahead.
Oh, but the one thing I think is kind of interesting, though, is as the Watcher was put in a position where he was in jeopardy, he started expressing emotion, and all of a sudden, Jeffrey Wright, as the person playing the Watcher, started to come through.
Yeah,
totally. And I thought that was interesting because when Jeffrey Wright comes through, it is a black man. Mm-hmm. And you also started to see, because they had different poses for the Watcher, like you just start to see that like their version of the Watcher is a black man, right?
Mm-hmm. The coloration of the character when you get a good look at him in the multiverse. Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Exactly. And that actually, to me, is a very different spin on the character. Mm-hmm. Because when you have that type of subjectivity in that particular position, it reconfigures so many other things, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Because it also made me think about how like even in my circumstances, that like as much as I'm supposed to be observing, there are moments when you do get pulled out, just by necessity, you get pulled out of that observational role. I don't have as much of a problem with godlike figures being pulled out of that role. I mean, my response to you, Scott, would be, oh, so what's your problem with democracy?
I was going to go Greek mythology, but sure.
The thing is, it depends on if you think these things are God beings and we're human beings, or if you think that these are simulations to explore what we think we are. So we create this vaunted creature that is so hyper inhibited, but yet full of all the anxiety. And what they're doing that to sculpt out of space to understand what we are, what's important. Because, when the Watcher, he's always got these, sayings of, 10 words, and they're always so deeply prophetic. And it's like, these are the final truths of wisdom in the universe. And I get that. And that's trying to say something about us. So when they deconstruct him down to the human level, he's no longer in a position to examine what we are. And it's not about democracy, though.
But he could afford to be that detached from everything, because he was never before in danger. He was untouchable. He was just watching. Now, like you said, his butt's on the line. So
if we're gonna make
he was emotional, but he was emotional in this episode before he was in danger. It was when just the world was in danger. And the other thing that I feel is actually kind of, if you think about it, somewhat problematic about making him human-like in terms of his emotions, is like some of the ethical implications of when you have one universe, it's one thing. When you have a multiverse, just imagine, well, in this one season alone, we've seen a few universes kind of meet their end. Imagine in a true infinite multiverse, how many universes must have come to how many horrible ends. And for the Watcher to be an emotional being having these emotional reactions, yet refusing, to on any level intervene, kind of almost looks like, man, dude, you're a psychopath. If you have like these emotions, but you're just watching infinite number of universes come to horrible ends through all kinds of various means, and just now only acting because it's you're on the line.
That was the first lines of the episode. We've seen this before. Universes die, but this one breaks my heart.
Yes. I gotta tell you, there are some things they're doing in this episode I really, really liked. And it comes down to this one line: Ultron, so many worlds, so much chaos, they need to be silenced. And what I love about Ultron saying that line is that the time stone is fueled, or the infinity stones are fueled by wild magic, which is the energy that was emitted in the Big Bang. That's where Captain Marvel gets her power. That's what Wanda taps into. So you got this constellation of phenomena that tap into the primal force of the beginning. And they're wild. They're not controlled. And what I love about it is when Ultron's in a position of being fueled by wild magic, he's a digital system that can't handle the nuance of wildness. And so he hears the noise, i.e., the noise we all generate because we be. And for him, that needs to go. And the reason it needs to go is because he's digital being analog, being fueled by analog. I don't know that because Thanos walks in, Thanos carried the stones and did what he wanted to with him because he's analog. He's not digital. And what I like about that is you can't get to the deep truth through logic in and of itself. There's a lived life you have to have. There's a form of being that you have to have. And if you don't have that, you can't handle wild magic. I just loved it. I don't know. I probably didn't intend that at all, but I thought that was a very cool little story they told.
I like the point you made about Thanos, though, right? Because he pretends that it's logic, but I've continually said that he's full of it because it's what he wants. It has nothing to do with some arbitrary thing that it has to be 50%. Because if that were the case, he would have been, when someone asks him, "What are you gonna do with this all over?" He could be like, "I may not be here." Right? No, he's sure that he's going to be there because everyone else is going to be subject to that 50%, but not him. Yeah. So
And did he do a universal study, like universe wide? If we reduce the population by maybe 32%, that could help. No, it had to be 50, right? Exactly. And another thing about when Thanos came in, we were talking earlier about just the no nonsense way that Ultron splits him in half. As soon as he gets the stones, why didn't he just snap his fingers and destroy life in the universe?
Digital just don't get it. I have no idea.
That would have been a short episode, but
well, the one stone he didn't have was the Mind Stone. But even with all of that, I think you're onto something, which is, you mean to tell me you have all that power in the universe and you're not walking around with a force shield?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. No, fair enough. Yeah.
No, I have to say, go ahead, Stan.
He was just taken out pretty easily.
Yeah. No, that's very true. But I do have to tell you, this episode felt the most Marvel-y to me. The whole opening with Black Widow and Hawkeye felt totally Marvel. There's the bit where all the Ultron droids are coming up the tube and Hawkeye's life is at risk. And there's still jokes to be made, or there's making jokes in these moments of serious, danger, the way Marvel does it in the movies. And of all of the what ifs I've seen, this is the one this feels like I'm watching a Marvel movie.
It seems like they always go for the joke a bit more in What If than I prefer. I mean, in the movies, yes, there's the snappy patter and that kind of thing. That's fine, but it seems like in What If, and especially in this episode, they leaned into that a bit too much, I thought. For instance, like we were talking about when he goes to evil Doctor Strange. When last we left him, he was in a universe by himself, mourning what he had done. I would have expected him to be a little bit more emotionally and mentally broken than immediately, coming out joking with the Watcher. That surprised me. I thought they would find him, pretty much. I expected him to be insane, especially right when you first see him and he's got all the multiple forms, and then he condenses down to evil Doctor Strange. I thought, oh, he must be completely out of his mind now. And
then the writers equivocated his state of mind with the Watcher's state of mind. In other words, the Watcher's like, oh, I can't believe I'm doing this, man. The Watcher didn't try to take any high ground on Strange. It's like, yeah, okay, I gotta ask for your help. I'm sure there's other lost souls that aren't him. He could ask for help, right? But I mean,
in an infinite multiverse, you'd think.
I just thought equivocating the Watcher with Crazy Strange is going after that humor more than keeping characters coherent.
I think that's also the problem with a multiverse, right? Is you can choose anything, and the writers are going to choose what makes their story work more so than what would be logical. Like, and that's actually one of the big problems with a lot of horror films, right? It's like how many zombie stories do we get where everybody assumes the solution to surviving is violence, when we all know that, like, okay, you can have all the guns in the world, but if and you can put a gun to the head of your cook, but ultimately the cook's going to put glass in your food if you do that, right?
Or turn into a zombie if you shoot him.
Right.
Yeah, that there's a certain level of complexity that writers don't want to engage in these types of stories, right? They want to just be like, okay, power works this way. It's very simple,
right.
Push, reaction, right? I was feeling kind of the same way too. It's like, to be honest, why go after Doctor Strange? Why not see if you can find another Watcher?
Is there a Watcher club? I mean, I don't know if there's one, a Uni-Watcher.
Meetup. Watcher meetup.
Yeah. I mean,
I got a Facebook page, man.
Yeah,
that cut out yesterday.
There must be other beings that exist outside of the multiverse.
That ain't Crazy Strange. I mean,
that ain't Crazy Strange.
Right.
No, but I think Stanford's point about telling the story that they want to tell, right? I mean, this is, instead of being a 90-minute or 120-minute film, right? It's a series of half-hour episodes, but they are bridging to something else, and so they're leading us, and they also have to lead us in digestible bits, right? Whereas some of these nuances would take a lot more time, and B, not everybody would necessarily dig that, right? I mean, it's like, pop music versus esoteric music, right? I mean, when I go to see a film, sometimes I just, I want the deep philosophical questions. Not everybody wants that. And to be totally honest, sometimes I want just disposable entertainment.
So I'm with you. So when I'm going to look at a story like The Girl with All the Gifts, right? When I'm going to look at a story that takes me by the nose into places I haven't been before, that's what I call good writing. But when I'm seeing a story put together so that I'm not being drugged by the nose, a quilt's being sewn in front of my eyes, right? The craft is to know how, for me, if by the way, I love this episode. I really enjoyed it. I love the animation and I love the whole Marvel vibe. At the same time, if I see behind the curtain, it's different than if I don't. And so know how much time you have, know what kind of ground you got to cover, and then try to make it look like you're not doing it. But you're right. No, they're trying to get us to the canonical takeoff for, movies after this. But
and this is a two-parter, so this is leading into the finale, I believe, which is tomorrow.
Yes,
I think. Yeah. So,
and I saw an intro for today, and it's the Watcher X.
Yes, I saw a scene from it today,
yeah,
which goes to one of my huge pet peeves about Marvel. I don't know how you guys feel about it. I feel that the latter Marvel films really messed up Thor.
Oh, we just had that conversation last week.
Okay,
Yeah.
really messed up Thor. I'm tired of frat boy Thor. You could have had him broken in Endgame
World?
instead of
Endgame,
becoming
yeah.
the dude Thor. I mean,
Yeah.
he's just turned into a joke. And I saw a scene from next week's episode where the joke seems to continue. He's just the big blonde frat boy, and
Yeah.
I don't like that at all. That was never Thor's power or position. I felt he was, to me, he was always kind of the powerful fish out of water. I always liked that about him, that he is a god, he's a Norse god, and yet in this new world he's semi lost, and he is boisterous and won't admit that he's lost, but he is lost within the world of Midgard, right? Because it's not his world, essentially.
Right.
So
No.
instead they turned him, they really turned him into a joke,
Are
unfortunately.
you sure you didn't watch our podcast from last week? Because we did
No,
that conversation for about 40 minutes.
I've felt this way since what was the
Ragnarok?
Ragnarok.
Yeah, which we
Since
loved,
Ragnarok.
but it's comedy though.
It was a comedy. It was
a
comedy.
a good comedy. Yeah, to be honest, I think that what they're doing is they're using him as a foil for a certain type of whiteness. There was a certain type of whiteness that they foiled with Tony Stark, different type of whiteness they foiled with Captain America, Steve Rogers.
Yeah.
And this is the frat boy whiteness. And the problem is it's very shallow, and the only way to grow is maybe the emotional depth of a 21-year-old. But I mean, there really isn't, of course, there isn't a whole lot of growth potential built into the character. And I think they did that on purpose to create that sort of deconstruction of whiteness, dare I say.
Well, I have to say, I'm a little nervous going into the finale because I've always broken it. I was trying to think like the most simplest statement I can make about what makes a story work is that every story is actually a promise, and the end of the story is about fulfilling that promise, right? I go back to X-Men, or not X-Men, X-Files, right? And I think to myself, like that whole, the very first question it asks is there something out there? And, I loved that show, but my disappointment with X-Files was that by the end, I'd given them 10 years of my life and I still didn't get an answer.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. X-Files is definitely a very big broken promise.
Yeah.
You guys don't think that movie helped?
No.
I mean, there was the
First
movie
one,
where the one where they
like
found
the
the
first- I
alien
like-
ship.
Yeah, but it didn't. It just kept leaving more questions and more questions and more questions with a promise that there'd be answers.
And the thing is, they could have answered the question and still used that to develop the next question and kept it moving forward.
Yeah.
That was the beauty of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. They did that. They asked a question every season, answered it, and then spun new questions out of that.
Mm.
My concern about What If is I'm trying to figure out what the promise was.
No,
They didn't really promise me anything.
No.
So I'm not sure how you can resolve the promise. And that leaves me wondering a little bit like, how do you tie this together in a way that's satisfying?
Well, the way I see it, if we think of this as a longer haul, right? Each of these shows, have not meant to sort of end. They're sort of bridging a larger narrative, right? And so I guess if we think of Loki as sort of introducing the concept of the multiverse, and then what if having us sit in that multiverse and practice as audience members holding different variants on a story in the same mind, knowing that they can coexist. Now we've got the threat of those coexisting, and then that's leading into the next Spider-Man and the next Doctor Strange, where they're competing. So I don't think it's supposed to make good on a promise. It's just supposed to get us to the next point.
Yeah,
I get that, but how does that? I'm curious to see about how they're going to wrap this up in a way that's satisfying for me as as a viewer.
Are you talking about this story or this season of the series?
This season of the series.
Okay, because the thing I was really glad about when I heard about What If and watched the first few episodes was it's totally episodic.
Yes.
I wasn't looking for an overarching narrative. I miss old-fashioned episodic television, where the characters carry the baggage of what has gone before, but I liked these little Marvel short stories of, what would have happened to this one thing would have changed. I liked the short story, totally anthology format of it. So my hope is that this two-parter is just a two-parter, and the next season is just more episodic, more just, what if this happened? What if that happened?
Yeah.
That's why I'm really looking forward to Star Trek Strange New Worlds, because the promise is return to episodic.
Right.
Beautiful.
And I think
that's the beauty of episodic television,
Stanford,
right? It's one simple promise, one simple answer. Boom.
And
yeah,
I think the episodic nature of the series speaks to Stanford's concerns, because I don't think they're going to leave it episodic. I think they're going to try and actually make this a coherent frame of the multiverse. And so there are supposed to be things that become canonical in the movies that come up. And that's a challenge, right? Because it forces us to experience stories differently. Now, because it's creating a tension between, is this an uber narrative or is this an anthology, right? And we're used to the kind of goal-oriented, this is this length or it's that length. And Eric's notion of practice, they could be exploring with different ways to tell stories, and we'll see if it works, right? I mean, having the watcher act kind of being the final foil, right? That somehow the final stable psychic system in everything, which would be the watcher, destabilizes into a regular human being. Now the whole multiverse is it even a multiverse anymore? I don't know. We'll see.
You know what was kind of cool about this episode that I forgot until just now? Seeing a different purpose of the vision be realized.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. To see if Ultron had won, to see what kind of a monster he could have become. I
really like that. I really hope they play with this idea of wild magic as they go further into the movies, and some agents being able to manage it and some agents not being able to manage it. It goes back to the concept of power and managing power. But go ahead, man.
I think the interesting thing would have been, because we basically a lot of this was really about what if Ultron had become Vision, which was what Ultron was trying to do, right? I think that I would have liked to have seen much more of a confrontation between this Ultra Vision, right, and Scarlet Witch. I would have liked to have seen that be much more centered, because that brings in all of the things that you're talking about, right?
Right.
But
it does,
they wanted to do the Watcher.
One of the dangerous scenarios they've created now is that in the MCU, Vision doesn't come out like Ultron came out in this cartoon, right? In other words, Vision is born with the Mind Stone, but he's not like this Vision that comes out with the Mind Stone. Are they going to try to claim that Wanda tamed the giant? Are they going to say that that the MCU Vision was better because he met a woman? I mean, they've created that possibility in the narrative, right. And that's just a dangerous way to talk. What's that?
I was thinking the same thing. Like
untamed man needs a woman. Right. I mean, oh God, not again, right? Because that just, it is Disney,
and tying a woman to wild magic is just a reenactment of hysteria, right? Yeah.
Well, I don't know if they. I mean, we talked about Wild Magic a little bit back in Low Key when I was doing that. I don't know that the writers know what to do with it, because I still think they believe chaos and order are two different things, and they don't see all order as existing in chaos and coming from chaos and always being potentially perturbated. So we'll see. I think telling a story about us being wild magic is very exciting. And what would that mean?
Well, what you just said is true. It is Disney. I mean, to say that and go into this, it's still Disney. I mean, I doubt they are going to get as deep and philosophical with it as I'd like to see as well. I would like to see them tackle.
Well, I also have to admit,
of existence.
I never took the risk to live the life of being a writer, so I have nothing to complain about. I mean, the guys and gals doing this writing took that risk, committed themselves to that life. So I love what they're doing. I hope they're brave. I hope they're brave and try to tell different stories. You know?
Yes, I agree. I agree.
Anyone else got a favorite line character? Go ahead, Daniel.
I was just gonna say it would have been kind of cool to see a sort of My Dinner with Andre kind of scenario with Thanos and the Vision just sitting at dinner and debating about a completely nihilistic viewpoint and the sort of Thanos's viewpoint. It might have been kind of cool.
Can you imagine Digital Vision completely deconstructing Thanos's argument and winning? Oh, dude, I'm built of logic. You're going to tell me that 50% makes sense and just decimate him logically. That would have been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Okay, then. So that about wraps it up for tonight's episode. Thanks so much for tuning in. Members of the What If crew, please tell the audience where they can find you on social media. And we will start with Eric.
So you can find me at the Department of Psychology's homepage at Illinois State University. You can find me on Twitter at Eric Wesselmann, and you can find my film musings if you Google normal theater film culture.
Fantastic. How about you, Stanford?
You can find me on, Facebook when it's working.
Ultron was at work, man.
There for a minute, didn't it?
Yep. Twitter, Clubhouse, and TikTok at SW Carpenter.
Excellent. How about you, Daniel?
I was going to say, you can also find Eric at fermentedbeverages.com.
Let's not forget.
Just
call us Fohead Beverages.
You can find me at popmythology.com, also on Facebook and Twitter at popmythology.
Fantastic. And how about you, Lord Blood-Rah?
You can find all the information about my series at lordblood-rah.com. I'm also on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You can find an episode of Lord Blood-Rah's Nerve-Wracking Theater on the landing page. A new one drops every Friday. You can also find the TV schedule, where you can find episodes on regular commercial TV or streaming, merchandise, and all of that. And I have two of my latest projects are 2 more weekly series, because I'm out of my mind. So one of them is Lord Blood-Rah's Cathode Zone, in which I host old episodic anthology series episodes from One Step Beyond, GE Theater, Lights Out, various things like that. And my latest endeavor is a radio series called Lord Blood-Rah's Nerve-Wracking Auditorium, in which I host old-time horror and science fiction radio series.
Yeah, we love it.
Stuff
We're
from
so
the
glad.
30s, 40s, and the 50s. Love it.
Yeah, well, we're so glad that you joined us tonight. We truly appreciated your contributions.
Thank you.
And we look forward to seeing you again soon.
Yes.
You can find me on Twitter at @dark_loops. You can find all episodes of the What If crew at the Dark Loops Productions channel on YouTube. If you'd like to leave feedback about this podcast, please do so on this YouTube page or send a message to darkloopsproductions@gmail.com, and we'll be sure to read it at the end of our next episode. So there it is, from all of us to all of you. Big hugs, and remember, we are the Watchers. Bye-bye.
Than horror movies. And I find I still look back on those. Like I remember like this, like the scary ones for me were was I remember seeing the original Thing long before I saw the John Carpenter's version,
Right.
and that freaked me out.
Oh,
And then the other one that really got me was whatchamacallit? It was I'm forgetting the name of it. Oh, Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Yes.
Like seeing the first version of it. Like that was actually more scary to me. Like this idea that you would just, for me it's just tied into this idea that you would die in your sleep. It's like
exactly. Yes, definitely.
And then there's this great use of camera angle in that scene where the last guy is running by himself in sort of a mountainy, hilly area, and he runs into a cave or something like this. And then you can see off in the distance, like 300 yards away, the villagers chasing him. And just that distance was brilliant. It was created so much loneliness, and they're still that far out looking for you. Scary as hell.
Movie that scared the hell out of me when I was a kid was The Tingler. That scene in the theater where it goes dark and people are screaming, "It's on my leg, it's on my face." I stayed up all night one night, literally could not sleep, expecting the thing to jump out of the shadows onto my face.
Fantastic.
Terrified.
The two other movies that really did me in, one was The Hand.
Is that a Vincent Price?
Remember? And it was just like someone's severed hand, just like the group that like they're out in the woods and they cut off the guy's hand. And then like the severed hand, and they eat the guy or something, and then the severed hand literally just like walks along and like starts killing them one by one. It's just the severed hand. It's like,
is the movie just called The Hand?
Yeah, it's just,
I don't think I've seen this.
And it like crawls up on the bed and like chokes the guy in his sleep, and then it just literally runs around, and it's like just a severed hand running around as its own serial killer.
Wow. Okay.
That was like from like the 70s or 80s.
Okay. There are a lot of films that have the severed hand thing in them, but I don't think I've ever seen the movie just called The Hand.
But this one was, it may have been a different name, but all I remember was this hand just going around and just murking people. And I was like, like that's kind of, that can hide. And that
more menacing thing from the Addams Family.
Yeah,
exactly.
It actually Sam Raimi needs to watch out for lawsuits.
Okay. What do you think about it? What's it gonna do? What's it gonna do? I mean, it's got no leverage, right? What's it going to do?